very good late morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling? Oh, I suppose we should have a bit of an interaction here. Yeah, everybody's all right. Yeah. Good, good. Yeah, we need this because it's going to be a very interactive session, I believe, and we're hoping to get lots of great questions from you all. Welcome to Showing and Telling Amazing Stories in the Regional Room. Our speakers for today are founder of BFM, Mr. Malek Ali. Let's give him a big round of applause. And founder and chairman of Lewre, Dato. Lewre. Let's give him a big round of applause. Moderating the session, ladies and gentlemen, is founder of Hub IT, Bobby Liu. I'm going to give the mic to him, and Bobby, take it away.
Okay, thank you everyone. Good morning. Hello. Can you all please move to the front a little bit? All right, we're just going to jump right in. Let me test the mic here. Okay, all systems go. Okay, first up, a little bit of backstory of one of our panelists, Mr. Malek. Actually, I was scheduled to have an interview by him a couple months ago. By the station, yeah. And it didn't, well, because of work schedule, because I don't live here, so it didn't quite work out. So the irony is actually right now I'm interviewing him. So yes, score one. So all right, let's welcome Malek, please. Okay, round of applause, please.
It's okay.
Okay, and
no big deal.
okay.
You want to sit down?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right.
And well, I've got my coffee here, my water. All right. Would you like to quickly make an introduction?
Sure. I guess the easiest way for me to do this is just to ask you, actually, so that I know how to, at what level to, I need to know knowledge of BFM a little bit. Who actually, and it's okay if you never heard of BFM before and all that. I just wanted to know who hasn't heard of BFM or hasn't listened to BFM in this room. It's okay. Who hasn't? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, all right. That's about half the room, which is good. I mean, which is good for me. Who has listened to BFM? Thing? Okay, about about 2/3, 1/3. All right, that's fine. So at least, I'll go a little bit of the background. BFM. BFM started in year 2008. It's a lot. It's actually we started off as a business radio station. If you hear the contents about, it's about business news, business topics during the morning, right? Business topics we have interviews with CEOs every morning. Like for example, today, we had the CEO of Crest Builder. So every morning you listen to business news, things that will prepare you for work, prepare you for your business day. I mean, that's the positioning. And then later in the evenings, and as the day progresses, it's one of the first examples of, I guess, talk radio. It's not music, it's not entertainment. I mean, it is a bit of entertainment, but generally it's a talk radio station where we talk about, business topics in the morning, entrepreneurial topics, late morning, for example. Entrepreneurs do not have a 9-to-5 job, so they don't have to get into work at 9 o'clock usually. So they can get in, can miss the traffic. So that's when we have shows like Open for Business. That's for new companies that are starting out. We have shows like Raise Your Game, which has like tips and advice for entrepreneurs to raise their game, to expand sales, to grow, to be more established. And then later in the afternoon, we cater for people who are driving. We follow the drivers, so people who are driving on the roads. So in the afternoon, we talk about other topics like about education, about health. And then in the evening, we come back to the commuters who are going back after work, and we have something called Evening Edition, and it's about sort of topics that you might have missed today. And we have discussions around those things. Yeah? So basically, it's a talk radio station, mainly right now in the Klang Valley. We're not allowed to go beyond Klang Valley because I think we're seen to be a bit controversial. So I think I've asked so many times to go to Penang, to go to Johor. There are technical reasons why not, but I think it can be surmounted. But I think we just say no. You are too you're too dangerous. So well, ideas are dangerous. So I guess that's why we left in the we've Klang Valley. That's not a bad market. I think we've grown from. I mean, people were very pessimistic about independent radio stations, because most of the radio stations are owned by the three big groups. We have Media Prima, we have Astro, the 600-pound gorilla. And then we have the Star Radio Group, which is part of Star Publications. We're the small, tiny fella fighting in this big market of giants. And I think that's the fun part. I think I guess that's why, in a way, I've been asked to speak here, is because how do you compete against the giants, and one thing it's much more fun than being the giant itself. So that's back on BFM. We have about 50, 60 employees right now. I guess we've been so now we're at the phase of growth where we're now established. Obviously not established far enough yet, because 1/3 of you in this room still haven't heard of BFM. So I still have work to do there. But I think we're also trying to expand. We have our video. We have a video unit doing a lot of internet videos. Some of you might have seen some of the controversial ones that we've done, unfortunately. And I think we're also going into. We have always been in areas of events, but I think I'm also right now exploring. I guess how to expand BFM beyond. Since I'm not allowed to go around Malaysia, how about I go around ASEAN, and things. And it's quite a common. You hear this as a common theme. You hear of companies that are blocked from expanding in Malaysia for various reasons, and because of force of necessity, we actually go out and do it as well. One great company that has an example of this is, and we'll come back to it later. I'll come back to as an example of companies going out. Okay? So I guess that's a bit of background. Bobby, is that sufficient to start off with? Okay, fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Malek. All right, our next panelist is Dato Lewre, and he's got some slides to present. So let's. Are you playing the slide first? Yeah, okay. All right. So please feast your eyes in front, not at me, at the screen. Thank you.
the best foot forward only on discovery.
Let's welcome Dato Lewre Liu.
Very good morning, everyone. And I hope that video already show a bit of myself, a bit of what I did over the years. Thank you very much for introduction, and welcome to this storytelling. I have 20 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay, before I start, can I quickly start the slides? Yeah. Okay, just stop there. Now, Lewre has been in the market since 1997. After 10 years, I started my business in the year 1987. There was the 80s downturn. I don't know how many people in the room understand the 80s economic downturn. Just like the 97 economic downturn, something like that. I think most people here, the younger generation, will understand the 90s, where the whole region has went through a very bad economic situation, financial situation especially. So I started in 87. 97, after 10 years, I decided to build my own brand. That's all about the IP today. I think that would be the gist of building a brand, the IP part. I would go back to my beginning stage before going to the IP, perhaps. Now, 80s was a really, I would say, just imagine 26 years ago. This is a long history. We started as a trading company, just buy, sell kind of thing, Even at the time, 80s, when you talk about exporting, this is something, a big name. When you talk about, I'm going to export my products to outside the country, that's already a big word. When I wanted to go into export, people can't look at you, people can't believe it. Can you export your products, That is how I started 87 Rundi, not even Lewre, under the company of Rundi Enterprise Center and Berhad. That's why Liu RE is Rundi Enterprise. Before I started, I think you need to know a little bit of Lewre. Started, as I say, just a sole trading company, buy, sell. But after a year or so, I decided to quickly change. I think trading is something no value added. I remember at the time, 80s, our international trade and industry minister was Rafida Aziz, the power lady. Now it's Tan Sri. She has been really encouraging a lot of Malaysian company. Please go out the country. Please move out yourself. Just like Malek said, move out the country. So we were actually been very inspired to how can we go into even export, even to neighboring country. So I started Singapore, the nearest of us, because at the time, even our port in Port Klang wasn't very well equipped in that sense, So most of the things actually go to Singapore because of the facilities, and a lot of buyers go to Singapore. So I exported to Australia through Singapore. Later on, I even go out to Netherlands, all through Singapore, through a middleman. just like Hong Kong, Hong Kong go to, mainland China go to Hong Kong for the war. I relate that way. Yeah. So what is a breakthrough? When I started in the export, I started to learn more than just a trading company. So I moved on to OEM. That's the word, OEM. Original Equipment Manufacturing. Again, it was a new word to many people at the time. Basically, buyer wanted something, they pass on the design or knowledge even to the extent to you, and you, again, build according to what they want, this OEM. After a few years, again, I remember the government was really encouraging us to go into value added. Build your design, build your own innovation. I think that part. Knowledge economy later on. And I was also been granted in 1991, very vivid year, 1991. Just imagine how young I was at the time. 13 company was so-called representing country to one of the biggest shoe fair in Germany under Madrid. So I was the youngest and least success at the time, just beginning of my career. The rest of the company are considered giant in the footwear industry. But unfortunately, again, in 1991, no one get any sales. I remember that was the first year the country, the Madrid was really also enthusiastic into exporting. And I remember there's a table on our booth, 13 company in the GTS, but unfortunately, again, we are actually placed into the developing nation on the whole 14. So we meet buyer, we pass on the brochure. The brochure is a long brochure. There's a long tree where the house on top of on the tree rather, and with a what they call orangutan by the side. So we sell shoe. 13 companies, the biggest, largest shoe fair. They call the Olympic of Shoe in GDS, if you could. So we pass on everyone. People look at us like alien, They don't even know where is the country, unfortunately. So we become ambassador, We say, do you know Thailand? Do you know Singapore? Yeah, we are actually. That was the true fact, and that's, unfortunately, I'm here telling you the truth. No one words of. So 13 company came back with zero and feel very humiliated. Second year, 9 company went. I was one of them as well. Again, zero. People ask us question like, you live on the tree, that's fun, things like that. And it wasn't fun at the time. We flew all the way to Germany, in Düsseldorf, 20 hours to reach there, changing airline here and there. Third year, again, we are all zero, third year. So 7 companies went together on third year. So the fourth year, but I was very happy actually, because probably I'm least success at the time. And the rest are all big boy, giant guy, And the share market, I remember 1993, 1994, whoa, if you can Google and see 93, everything seems to be bounce back after the 80s downturn. Everything seems to be back to normal or even rosy situation. So they say, I'm not going to be here to be humiliated. I want to, I'm doing very well in Malaysia. So I say, okay, but I gain a lot of knowledge, personally I feel, because remember, it's 80, 90 beginning, there's no internet like today. Everything, information, you have to reach there and you can see yourself, you touch from there. So that is the thing that I feel I'm really, really thankful to the government, Madrid, brought me there, shipped me there, launched me, and I went on the 4th year alone. And it was the 4th year that breakthrough. And the first company was Lebanon, and followed by another company from Japan. Wow, that is something very, really wonderful for me. And I was alone, remember, the 13 company all stopped because they are enjoying in Malaysia. So the 5th year, 6th year, it grow. You see, business is such, it's very fun, very funny though. The moment you break through, it breaks through across. In 5 years, I break through 40 nations, all under OEM. Even in 1996, I met one guy, super guy of Malaysian by the name Jimmy Choo. He came to Germany in the what do you call the booth, but he launched Jimmy Choo London that year, but in the 5-star hotel in Hilton. I knew Jimmy Choo from the magazine, in the Vogue magazine. He's the big name already. To me, he's a god, he's a saint, you know. But he walked into my booth in 1996. I said, wow, that's Jimmy Choo. I can't even dare to approach him. That kind of feeling. Not now. I mean, talking about 1996 when he first launched. I don't even know he launched Jimmy Choo London. So he was very kind. He walked in, he introduced himself. I said, oh, yeah, I know you are Jimmy Choo. And I know he's Malaysian. But just that the name is too big that we can't even dare to approach him. So he invited me to the Hilton room where all the top designers actually exhibit there. I met Tamara Mellon. I met also Centra Tree. Now it's a big name, Jimmy Choo, Google. She was a young lady of 17 or 18. So years go by. After I met Jimmy Choo, I think Jimmy Boleh, Ivan Boleh, the kind of feeling. But you see, I have been moving to OEM from trading, and in fact, after 2 years, I evolved from OEM to ODM already, which means design. Knowledge, economy, creativity, as I said early on. But I think that's not enough. I've sold more than 30 old countries, almost 40 countries around the world. So I say to myself, I think branding is the one I have to really go through. So I launched Lewre in 1997. And I even invited Jimmy Choo to come back in 1997. Before that, Jimmy never seems to come back to Malaysia, but 97 later on he came back. He come back most of, every now and then. In 97 again, another very remarkable year where Princess Diana died on 1997, August 31st. So I launched it on October 23rd. I invited Jimmy Choo. It's a big news of Jimmy Choo coming back, launching Lewre. So everybody thought Jimmy have share on this Lewre and things like that. But actually, he doesn't own anything about Lewre. But we are just very good friends. He was really, really, he was my mentor, a very, very kind man. So this was the bond of Lewre. Now, as I say, evolve from trading OEM, ODM to OBM. I think it's a very difficult year for me, especially on the OBM. For us, I think we are not a very developed IP or branding nations like in the West or Asia in particular. I think it was Japan. Now Korea, they have a lot of big brands coming in now. Even neighboring nation in ASEAN, I think we are still very much lacking. But we are growing definitely. So I think at the time, we exporter facing a lot of problem, like we don't have the very good image of the branding for even the nation. When you talk about Malaysia, people don't even know where's Malaysia. They know Singapore and Thailand. In terms of that branding, we are losing out. So we formed branding associations of Malaysia in the year 2000 because basically we face the same problem like what I share. The rest of other industry do face the same problem. They say they don't even know where we are. They can't even pronounce Malaysia. So this was the situation. So I was the deputy president. I was one of the founding deputy president. So I became president 6 years later on. I stepped down 3 years ago. So I'm now still the honorary president of Branding Association. What I'm trying to say is, I think we have passed this very important message to the government that the government need to do a lot more branding, in the sense that wrong brochure, like I show you the tall tree with the house with the wrong mascot, I think that was very, very wrong. And I brought in a lot of buyers overseas. They say, before I came into Malaysia, I can't imagine Malaysia is so beautiful. I remember that 90s, Mahathir was the prime minister. I think he's a very visionary guy in terms of building branding for the nation. He dared to put the tallest building. At least later on, when we talk about tallest building, everyone knows Malaysia later on. Then you have the super highway, you have the best airport, you have the even Formula One. To me, I mean, yeah, that is arguable whether it's the right thing to do. I'm not a politician. I don't want to talk about anything about it. But in terms of the leadership of the vision of building a nation with the branding positioning, I think he did a good one, I must say. No, you know what? My buyer, a potential buyer, they say, oh, that country, the prime minister is very garang, he's very fierce. He can even dare to shout at UK, the big boy, and the US, Oh, this is the nation, wow. Whether there's a right branding or wrong branding, that's branding to me. At least people recognize you one way or another. I'm not asking you to go and shout it, whatever. But what I'm trying to say, Malaysians exporter or businessman face such kind of difficulty at a time.
Dato,
Now,
what you just said is very interesting.
Yeah.
Hold that thought a little bit, because I have some questions to ask on that.
All right, okay. I quickly have 5 slides.
Okay.
How much more time I have? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
2
Okay.
minutes?
Just hang on to that thought first, because I want to ask directly that question.
Okay.
In relation to what we are talking about today. Before that, take a break. I've got some questions for Malek as well. In starting, I read a little bit of your history, right? You were a consultant, then followed by working with Yahoo, and then with Maxis, or the other way around. No, Maxis and then Yahoo, and then in marketing, right? And then finally you launch your business FM. Why?
I guess I've always been sort of an entrepreneur at heart. I guess just question is how and when to get there. So yeah, I started my professional career as a lawyer, and then I went to an organization called Boston Consulting Group. But it's always been about sort of I do know that it's something that I want to build something of value, right? So just like Dato Lewre, I think you always have this ambition to build something of value. BFM is not my first one. I think my first venture was a classifieds newspaper. I was a child of the internet generation. 95. I graduated from business school in '95, and that's when Netscape just came out, listed on the markets. There was the first browser that I think Yahoo was called David Filo's and Jerry Yang's Guide to the World Wide Web or something like that, right? You had to type the whole thing, instead of Yahoo. But I think I entered my first venture was a classifieds newspaper. That didn't do so well. I think you mentioned about '97 crisis. That put paid to all that. I was $300,000 in debt, and I had to find another job, right? So I was quite fortunate. Met a group of entrepreneurs from Job Street. I think there's people like Mark Chang and all that, and we started regional expansion at a very early stage. We started opening office in Singapore, Philippines, etc. And now Job Street just, as you know, Job Street has sold on to Seek recently for about maybe one of the biggest sales in Malaysia. So I guess I've always, whenever I wanted to learn, I guess I have worked for companies. So I joined Maxis to learn about mobile. I joined Yahoo to learn more about the internet. But when I wanted to really create value, I did that through own businesses. So I guess so the short answer to your question is why there's different changes is because I absolutely entrepreneurship is in my blood. I want to create something. I love the challenge of starting from something which is zero. In value, zero in brand recognition, zero in things, and I love the challenge of bringing something from zero to something that's worth something and is useful to something. It's not something which is not useful. I hope BFM radio is useful to some of you, in terms of knowledge, etc. So create something of that and making a business out of it. Creating a valuation of zero to whatever. I mean, people like Mark Chang created something from they put in 60,000 ringgit of their money, and they created something which was at 1.8 billion ringgit after 20 years, right? To be fair, 20 years. After 20 years, you create something from 60,000 ringgit to 1.9 billion ringgit. At BFM, the stakes are a little bit different. We started with we put in capital about 5 million ringgit, and then we'll see what this value of 5 million ringgit will bring us in the future, right? So far it's been good. Yeah.
Okay, back to the question, Dato Lewre. If today you had the honor and the privilege to meet Jimmy Choo, right? He came to your booth when you were in London, and I can understand. I think I could understand your feeling when you were sitting at your booth, and all of a sudden this guy walked in. And you're like, Jimmy Choo, right? So from there, you kept up friendship. Now today, if somebody comes up to you, or you discover a Malaysian, a talented designer, and what advice would you give to him? And how do you think you're able to fast track his career as a designer?
Fast track, I wouldn't say, but the fundamental you have to learn. Again, how big is your dream? Whether you have a really good ambitious of building global brand of yourself, Jimmy Choo. Of course, Jimmy Choo already was very successful when I met him, and that already inspired me plentiful. Moreover, don't forget, I have been having the exposure internationally since 1991, although we got zero sales. I was there for years, and I witnessed myself, new brands launch every year globally. And it went on, some of them disappeared, some of them become global brand. One of them was Skechers. I'm very, very clear about Skechers. Was even launched around that time, maybe 1-2 years earlier than me. I witnessed big brand because that was the GDS, the largest shoe fair, just like an Olympic shoe exhibition, where all the top brands or the emerging brand was there. Now, coming back to the question, Bobby, I think I would love to guide and give them pointers, the right way of branding, like the positioning of what you want, what's your target, all this kind of thing, a basic principle of research, proper of yourself, and how is your strength, your value, of what differentiations. All these are very basic fundamental of branding. I think a lot of people might not even have it when they start business. They're just like, I want to do business. I want to be rich. I want to be a boss myself. I've been working for people for years. I'm very envy my colleagues or friends or whatever to become boss. I think the basic, as I said early on, Malaysians do not have very strong fundamental of branding the business from day one. They don't even have the culture. We don't have the culture. We don't have the branding culture. Look at the West. Look at especially America. Unfortunately now, look at the top 100 brands in the world. More than 50% come from America. So the culture is just already there. Europe is catching up, but still way lacking compared to America. The top brands are all America. So we have to therefore learn from America. What is branding? How do you build value from even day one before you even start business? This is what my advice. Of course, you can see Korean suddenly after 90s, the what you call Olympic game. Remember, Samsung was nobody would buy, nobody would even think of a Korean brand at that time. That was only how many years ago? 20 years ago. But again, look at China now. Just way back 10 years ago, ask yourself, would you buy China product at the time? I remember, Bobby, a very good story of mine, experience. I remember I exported 30% of my merchandise to Japan, when I break through in 1995, after 94, sorry. That was my first Japanese customer. My sales grew Japan fantastically. Where I'm just now? China, yeah. My Japanese buyer came to Malaysia all the time, developing with me, OEM. They even flew one crew, I remember one very well-to-do brand, even came here to Malaysia and teach me how to build the best shoe. Because they want me, they trust me to give that kind of service. The engineer, the designer stand here for 3 months to teach me, to guide me. I was very fortunate. This is actually a transfer of knowledge, like technology. So later on, I have agreement signing with them 3 years, supplying to them, to Japan. Now my buyer, later on I built my OEM business. They have been so used to come to Malaysia. But when China emerged, I say, hey guys, you must follow me to go to China because they have already booming, they're already, because I want to bring them to my factory, which is a Taiwanese, but happened to be based in China. You know what they say? First thing they said, no, I'm not going to be in China at all, no way. But 3 years later on, I said, can you please come back to Malaysia? No, I want to go to China already. It's the totally reverse. Because they notice themselves, China has changed. But today, have you ever thought you don't want to buy China product? Will you have the kind of perception that China means very bad quality? No, because world changes quickly. The top products, iPhone, example, and many other things are actually made in China. But just that the technology comes from any part of the world. What I'm trying to say is, we can improve, we can change.
Thank you. Interestingly, for you, in the early 2000s, I think 2003, you were doing mobile marketing for Maxis and then Yahoo. All right. So that was before the era of handphone, right? Or smartphone, for that matter. Okay. What did mobile mean to you at that time?
I guess I disagree with you. Actually, the smartphone was already there. Apple's branding is so strong that people say Apple's the first smartphone. Nonsense. You had something called Palm Pilot. Remember those things? Those Palm Pilot guys created Palm Trio. And I remember going to, I go to my business school reunions every 5 years. I just missed one because I had a food operation. But whenever I meet them there, I looked at what phones they carried. And in year 2005, year 2000, everyone, 2001, so one thing, they carried all these Palm Trios at one point in time. No, it wasn't. It was a Trio, Treo, which is a phone and a Palm Pilot into one device. And you know what? Palm Pilot had Palm Store. You can buy little games and little apps and things like all that, right? So, and then you had the BlackBerry that came through. After the 5 years later, it was a BlackBerry. 5 years later, this is the iPhone. But actually, the thought was that when I joined Maxis in 2004, you could already see the trends happening. You could see Palm developing all these devices. You could see, obviously, Nokia was the king at the time, I guess fighting against the likes of Samsung, etc. Ericsson, Sony Ericsson. So the idea about going into mobile to me was to learn more about the mobile industry, to understand that. And in a way, actually, what has it all, what I've seen in year 2003 to 2005 is happening, it started happening in 2009, 2010. It's interesting, you have this a bit of a, is a bit of a 8-year time lag or 7-year time lag between ideas and conception and so on. So I was working for, and then I moved to Yahoo. Yahoo also was about mobile. We basically, creating apps for Java apps within those old phones. They were called smartphones as well, on Ericsson phones, etc. But what blew the market was a little bit, in the same way that what blew the market was the fact that Apple came in and in a way standardized the ecosystem, created a very high quality ecosystem of app developers, of operating systems and all that. And that ecosystem, which was very simple and very easy to use, blew the market, I think, in a way. Because before that, in the days of Java phones and all that, everything was a bit haphazard. It's a bit like old Android. Everything's a bit haphazard. Everyone develops at this. Remember developers coming in and wanting to develop games. They had to develop 20 versions to fit every single phone. Right? Whereas in Apple, you really have to develop maybe now 2 versions, right? One for the certain type software things, and then another version. But that's about it. Or one for the iPad and one for the thing. But that's the thing. That's the beauty about what Apple did, was to create this fantastically high quality ecosystem that everyone can participate in. All the business rules are all organized. They take 30% of any app purchases and all that. Actually, you've seen it also in the computer world. I think in the computer world, Apple tried to do it, but they didn't build an ecosystem. Apple tried to do it with their own computers. This was when we're talking about in the 90s. Actually, Microsoft came in and built a uniform operating system across all computers, which is called the Windows, in the Windows system. So in a way, Windows created that uniform platform for every single thing. And I think that's a beauty about sometimes with all these things, is that when one company comes in and creates that ecosystem, you can make other people thrive, and once other people thrive, the ecosystem thrives. So I think that's where my interest in mobile came from. That I'm still hugely interested in it, in terms of I'm still looking at, even hatch a few, did a couple of prototypes or a couple of mobile ideas. Not good enough. Go back to the drawing board. I think so.
All right, we've got about maybe 10 minutes. Any designers, innovators there? Anyone on the floor even attempt to design a logo? Come on, don't be shy. All right, everyone is creative, I believe. Oh, okay. All right. So you have a question?
Not designer, but I'd like to ask a question. Would that be okay?
Of course.
Okay. This is for Mr. Ali. I thank you for the radio station. I think it's a fantastic radio station. I think my greatest takeaway from BFM is sometimes you get discouraged about the country, but I listen to a lot of people on the radio, and then I figure out, there are still a lot of good Malaysians out there. So thank you for that. More Neil Young, please. More Neil Young on the radio.
More Neil Young.
Yeah. Okay. My question is this. I think the radio station makes a better Malaysia. My question is, can nation building and business go together? Number one. And number two, about branding. I think now BFM is a bit elitist. Probably the guy who's been overseas educated, he listens to Morrissey, he's the guy who's listening to BFM. How do you broaden your base of listeners without diluting the brand? That's my second question. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try your first question first. Can business and nation building go together? I think for sure. I mean, that's the whole reason why we started BFM, because we believe that business and nation building can go together. Business is not a bad thing. I think it is unbelievable. But at Harvard Business School, some of the words that we go through is, you are the architects of prosperity. Right, you are the builders of prosperity. Make your difference in the world to build prosperity around the world. These are the kind of things that you teach at business school, right? Which is really interesting, because you're not talking about just companies or profits or things. Those will come. Yeah, we need those things to sustain ourselves. But actually, business can be a huge force for good. Right? So I think that's what we believe in. For example, when we create value, right? If we, just take simple example of BFM, right? So we have. It's a platform for, as you say, a lot of very inspiring folks, Malaysians, or people who live in Malaysia, come on and talk about what they're doing, and if they inspire another 10 people to do the same thing, is that good for the country or not? And I got to believe that that's good for the country, right? If one person, out of 250,000 people listen to BFM and they get inspired by not just Tony Fernandez, they get inspired by any entrepreneur that comes on. If 5 of them become the future Air Asias, is that good for the country or not? And create employment for another 10,000, 20,000 people per person, right? That must be good, right? So I think business and we make, and BFM, we make money along the way, right? So we get advertisers, the banks come in and advertise with us, and so on. So business can be a force for good. There are times when business is not, and I think that's when, but it is, but generally, I think, at the end of the day, if you're running a company, if you want to have a really productive workforce, if you want to really do well, you want your workforce to be responsive, you want your employees to serve customers well and all that. And the only way you can get there is, in the long run, is that if you actually treat them well, you pay them well and so on, then you get all those. So in a way, business can be a force for good. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's when I think some regulatory agencies need to come in and step in a little bit. I think the financial sector has seen a lot of that, especially in the US. You've seen that. What is actually quite dangerous right now, what I'm feeling is actually, I would say that business is a better force for good than governments. I'm actually saying this right now because, Belgium, I think, has not got a government for one stage for about 18 months. They couldn't elect a government, and the country was doing well. And if you look currently, I'm sometimes wondering, and sometimes there's this philosophical thing, what are governments there for, right? And are governments supposed to get involved in business? I think the answer is no. Governments should not get involved with. What governments should get involved with is macroeconomic stuff, meaning make sure our economic environment is stable, make sure that our make sure that the things where markets do not work, where people are disadvantaged by nature. Someone comes, people are disadvantaged by education. Make sure all these macro factors are covered so that people have a same starting point in life. Whether you're poor or rich, you have the same starting point in life. You have a decent, solid education. I think that's the role of government. It's very hard for the private sector to come in and do education from all the way from Perlis to Kuala Lumpur. You can't. They focus, as you can see, all the 37 international schools focus on Kuala Lumpur, right? They don't go to anywhere else. But that's where governments come in. They make sure that the education standard in Perlis is exactly the same, and Kota Kinabalu or Belud, wherever it is exactly the same as in KL. That's the role of government. But otherwise, then you let the private sector go and create the value. So I think that there's a big, so to your question, business can be hugely a force for good, and that's in a way my reason for being for a lot of what I'm doing right now, BFM, anything else, right? We even look at education sector, because how to serve the education sector as well. The way education via radio right now, that's what we're doing. Then your second question, which is elitism. Okay, I think it's something we fight against all the time. Meaning we try not to be elitist. We speak the language of English, that's for sure, because that's a language of business, and I think we want to convey that. But we know we know that that naturally self-selects to a certain audience, right? An English-speaking audience. But we notice one thing. We notice particularly amongst the Malay urbans, right? We notice that they listen, but they don't contribute, because the language, they're not as confident to contribute. So if you do call-ins, we realize that. We realize that when we do call-ins, it's people who speak English well will contribute, but people who understand English but do not speak English well do not contribute. How we know this? We had Wahid on, Dato Sri Wahid talking, and then we did a bilingual kind of thing. Once people knew it was Wahid, the Malay-speaking audience started calling in. So that's how we know we have a big Malay audience, but they're just not calling in and contributing. So they started contributing. They started asking questions in Malay, right? And starting asking questions, Wahid was answering Malay, and then it became fantastic. It was almost like Malay-English switch off and switch on. It had a fantastic feeling about it. But branding and branding, part of branding is about segmenting about focusing on who your target customers are, etc. And we make no bones that our target listener are English speaking, and or at least understand the English language. So I think what we've done is, okay, let's focus. No problem. We'll do that with. We'll continue with the radio station in English. But how do we address this, the Malay-speaking market? And I think that's where we say, no, we don't have another radio station license. I would love if someone were to give us another radio station license, but we're too dangerous to have Malay radio stations are even more scrutinized than English radio stations. English radio stations, they say, elitists, they only cater for a certain market. But Malay radio station, that's dangerous. You are infecting, 60% of the population, right? So to us, we can't get radio station license for this. But what we do is we approach it through video. Meaning we have something called a series called Kupas, we have a series called Sekilas. So we start developing, in a way, hopefully the same kind of analytical, fact-based thinking, and let's not just suppress things and not talk about things, but let's talk about things and discuss what are the issues out there. Let's discuss let's discuss this. Sure, I think we did one or two mistakes with a couple of videos that just got out and wow, this is a bit too much lah. So, but I think, but there are some, but I think the objective is clear, to address this part of the Malay community. Not just most of Malay media. I think Sinar Harian is doing a great job. In terms of creating those debates and things like that. I think we need more of that. We need less of the, Ezra Fazila does this or that, the other, what she dresses in and all that kind of thing. We need less of that. I think we need more of okay, what does 1MDB mean for us as individuals? What does 42 billion ringgit mean to the community, right? Why is our ringgit falling down? Why, when we go to neighboring countries now, it's so expensive to do? Why do we import goods to sell locally? Why is that 20% more expensive than it was before? What is GST? So I think these are kind of things that we want to do. Unfortunately, we can't do that by radio, but we like to do that with use the internet at our disposal to do things like that, right? So that's the idea. Yeah. And I take back, when you say elitist, I take that as a little bit of in a way. A criticism, and I take that. I'm really yes. We got to just be a little careful that we don't appear or sound elitist, and that's important. But English speaking will always be the way.
Well, actually, I do share this point of view because my business is based in Vietnam, and we are obviously in the new economy business, building startups. And and I tell you, the talents in Vietnam is just amazing, right? The only thing that the Vietnamese is lacking is exposure, right? They are very well schooled, knowledge-wise, especially with the internet. They can get information, but they cannot express themselves verbally in English well enough to be understood by VCs or advisors or mentors. So there has been actually concerted effort to make the community to be more well-versed in spoken English. So the last few months, and I can see where you're coming from, because initially the Vietnamese startups were saying that, very elitist, and only the Vietnamese that study abroad can understand. But this is not true. I think at the end of the day, it's about the content that you want to deliver and how you deliver it. And over the last 6 months, I believe we have seen more and more Vietnamese are actually attempting to use English. Once you surpass, the discomfort of verbalizing in a language, okay, then you don't need to like speak in perfect Queen's English. Really, at the end of the day, it's making yourself understood. So this is the basis, and I think having a station as what Malik said, being the language of business. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I guess it's the content, right? How you drive it, and that's the area that most.
Yeah. The analogy I'll use, English is like the operating system. Yeah. I mean, it's like the Microsoft operating system. It's like the iOS operating system. It's creating this. On it, you can build a lot, right? So I think, for example, with education right now, if our kids knew just enough to understand English. Look, there's so many online education opportunities. You can look at Khan Academy, but you look at Khan Academy, you can learn mathematics through online. It's fantastic. The resources are out there, but the currently, vast resources of it is all in English, right? So Khan Academy is trying very hard to look for translators and all that. But you know what? Do you want us to spend? Is it easier to spend the time translating to Malay, right? Or is it easier to spend the time, all of us learning English to the point where we actually understand what's out there? I think it's easier the other way. That the operating system's in English now and things. And talk about branding. The branding things. The interesting I find, right? I mean, if you look at the when I was in the mobile space, I looked at the way Samsung did its operating system. And there's a clear distinction between Samsung and what iPhone did later on. Samsung comes from a culture of pictorial culture, and it's very, you can tell it's a culture that's a bit closed, because when it comes to Malaysians or whoever internationally, you look at stuff and go, why is the user interface like this or like that or like this? Bling bling bling, lots of flashing lights, but you can't get what you want done easily, right? Whereas I guess the global culture that Apple has done is actually to understand that, okay, this is generally the global culture. We can tap into that. I think English has a lot to do with it, because Korea is such a closed country. And look at can I ask you, just for example, let's take what's Audi's tagline? Almost there.
Oh shit.
Does anyone want Audi's tagline? Almost. Das Auto is Volkswagen, but Das Auto, okay. What else? Audi is Vorsprung durch Technik, something like that, right? Vorsprung durch Technik. I used to, in the 80s, I used to watch movies, and after the Audi thing, all of us school kids go, Vorsprung durch Technik, like this. Okay, what language is that? German, okay? So we know the taglines of these companies in German, okay? Yeah, not even English, we know these taglines. Okay, do you know what the tagline of Samsung is? Sorry, let's not Samsung, let's just use a car. What's the tagline of Hyundai?
All day, every day. Oh, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah. What's Hyundai's tagline? Huh? Yeah. What's Hyundai's tagline, right? So Das Auto, Vorsprung durch, well, I know Vorsprung durch Technik, right? But you don't know Hyundai. What else? Japanese one, Toyota. Moving forward? Yeah, I think, okay, all right. Yeah, I think you're right, you got that, okay, great. For one of the largest car makers in the world, I think, you got one response, it's great, right? But, what else? What Japanese? Honda, what's Honda's tagline? The power dreams. Good, excellent. So again, for this, that car market in the world, that's fine. So I'm trying to say is that I think that this North Asian branding is still second to, I guess, even the Europeans in the car market, right? All that. And so when you can see the difference. I mean, I think you can tell it's because it's a North Asian mindset. You talk about dreams. You talk about power to inspire. It's all this dreamy. I mean, North Korean branding. Yeah, North Korean is all about dreams and skies and not even that actually. It's all dreaming. Like Hitachi lift the next. I don't know, something like that, right? It's something. All this you see movies are just the next time you watch a branding thing, you look at the Koreans and the Japanese North Asian branding. They're all very wishy-washy. Whereas the Americans are very like, just do it. right? No, that's like bang, 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 right? So that's the difference, and I think that when you're talking about cultures, I think this is where I think not even Japan and Korea, not North Korea, and Korea has not integrated really, they're not fully in tune with global culture. Having said that, some of them are creating their own cultures, of course, in the music scene, etc. The boy band looks and all that. I think they're creating their own culture in a way, but I think just generally right now in terms of consumer products and all that, they're not there yet. They're obviously creating their own culture in terms of like Psy, Gangnam Style, and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's it.
Okay, all right. In the interest of time, actually I have another session to attend. Quickly, 1 minute. What takeaway do you want the audience to have? Any advice? 1 minute. A quick takeaway.
Build IP. I think Malaysia, as I said, generally they are still very lacking on this knowledge on building IP and the power of IP, the values of IP. I always, towards the end of my presidency of our branding association, I have always encouraged company to build their own IP in the sense that you have, for example, you have 10, 20 years of experience in any particular industry, you have to think in depth of building something differentiated or best in, not even done in the world, and patent it, and that is your value in the future.
Build value. Businesses are about creating value. Value means not giving someone the same thing and you replace someone with the same, you replace with exactly the same products and, you just want to charge less, That's not building value, Building value is about creating something, you add something to the product and it becomes something which is that people value and want. And give you a simple example, I just had a foot surgery. And I just wanted to waterproof my bandages. Right, so I want to shower, so I don't want to get my bandages wet. So you can do those other things. You put a plastic bag, and then get a tape, tape around and things like that. Yeah, takes me about 7 minutes every morning and every night. I'm like 7 minutes. Oh, this is really a pain, And then sometimes it leaks and things like that and all that kind of thing, right? And then. And then I said, okay, can I find something for this, right? So I went to the hospital, look around for the things. Do you have anything that can, make my leg, foot waterproof? Yeah, here's the thing. Oh, we got exactly the thing for you. So I opened it. He brought me this thing, right? Cost me about 47 ringgit, right? 47 ringgit, but a little box, pass it to me. Okay, I looked at it, went home, opened it. It was literally like a simple piece of plastic with drawstrings at both sides. Cost probably about. No, I would say it would. I would actually say about 80 cents, 70 cents. But I paid 47 ringgit for that, and you know what? I don't mind paying that 47 ringgit because it saves me. It takes me 20 seconds to put on as opposed to 7 minutes of taping, right? And that means a lot to me. And it's dry all the time. I used it last night. And I keep thinking, is this $47 worth it? No, actually, it's worth it, and that's value. That's value. That's how much this German company who makes it in China creates value.
All right. Thank you very much, Ali and Dato Lewre, for a very engaging session. I wish we had another hour or so, but we don't. So thanks for coming. Look, I'm going. They are staying. So if you have any questions, go to them. All right. Profit from their experience. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your moderator, Bobby Liu. Give him a big round of applause. And of course, our panel speakers again, Malek Ali from BFM and Dato Lewre from Lewre. A big round of applause.